Hey everybody, I'm Mariana and this is Three Peaks Classroom. If you are new to my channel, hello and welcome. I am currently an English as an additional language instructor here at my site, but I'm a former grade 3 and grade 4 teacher as well, and I love to make helpful YouTube videos for other teachers just like you. In today's episode, I want to dive deep and talk about the phonemic awareness progression, how you can recognize where students are at in the progression, and activities that you can do each step of the way. So in last week's episode, I actually talked about the difference between phonemic awareness and phonics, but why both of them are super important to have in your classrooms. And that was basically like a foundational episode. So if you have not yet watched that episode, I recommend that you hit pause on today's episode, go back and watch that one, and then come back so that you have a really good understanding of why phonemic awareness is very important in your elementary classroom, as well as phonics. So a quick recap of last week's episode. Phonemic awareness talks specifically about sounds, the sounds in words. It has absolutely nothing to do with letters or spelling. So phonemic awareness, we're manipulating, we're identifying the sounds in spoken words. And so teaching phonemic awareness is a gradual process and it builds upon different skills. So are you ready for the progression? Here is where every emergent reader will begin in terms of learning about language skills, reading, writing, speaking, listening, all of that. This is the first step. So the very bottom or the foundation of phonemic awareness is sound discrimination. That is the ability to identify that words have sounds or words are made up of sounds. So when I think about the phonemic awareness progression, I'm going to think about it in terms of context of my own life. So I have a 5-year-old daughter and oftentimes we'll be driving around and she will recognize environmental print in her world. And she'll see, no surprise, the McDonald's golden arches. And she'll say, "Hey mama, look, McDonald's." I say, "Yeah, that is McDonald's. McDonald's." And being the teacher mom that I am, I'll go, Is there a sound in McDonald's? McDonald's. And she's thinking about it. She might say yes or no, doesn't matter. But we are beginning to identify that the word McDonald's, there are individual sounds that make up that word. So, McDonald's. Yeah, there is. At the beginning, I can hear, yes. Or let's try this one. Is there a sound in McDonald's? And I'll exaggerate that ending, of course. And hopefully she's picking up on the idea that the word McDonald's has different sounds in it. And that is sound discrimination. A very basic activity that I do even with my own English as an additional language learner groups is I'll have a set of picture cards right here. And I'll just point to them. And first of all, we're working on vocab development, but I'll point to this and I'll say, this is a pot. And then we're working on a specific letter in our books. And I'll say, is there a in pot? Pot? And they'll either say yes or no. But that is a very simple activity that you can do. Notice how phonemic awareness does not include letters. So I'm not showing you letters at all. I'm saying, is there a sound in pot? And they'll say no. Okay, we're going to move on to this. This is a yard. Is there a sound in yard? No? Okay, let's go. And we're sorting those out. That is an activity that you can do for sound discrimination. So once students are able to identify that words are made up of sounds, then the next step here is rhyming. Rhyming is a very important and key step in the phonemic awareness progression. Lots of stories, poems, and songs will help to develop the student's ability to rhyme. And as we know later, when we talk about phonics, rhyming, the ability to rhyme, will help students to identify word families, and spelling. It's important to note here too that nonsense rhymes are totally welcome here as well. They don't have to be true rhymes. So one way that I incorporate this and infuse this in my classroom, even as a grade 4 teacher, is I'll be up at the class, at the board, inviting some students up to do something. And I will give each of the kids a funny nonsense rhyming name. So if I have a student in my class named Johnny, I'll say, "Hey, Johnny Body, come on up to the board." Or I'll say, Anna Banana, your turn, time to come to the board and finish this problem," or whatever. So that is a really easy way that requires absolutely no prep at all for you to infuse some rhyming activities into your classroom as well. Poetry, singing songs, and reading stories that have a rhyming pattern are all invaluable activities that you can do to enhance your students' phonemic awareness. So once your students are familiar with sound discrimination and then rhyming on top of that, the next activity or the next step in the progression is segmentation. This is where students are beginning to learn that words can be broken up into chunks, like sound chunks. Remember, we have not yet introduced letters to them at all. So if I'm sitting in the car with my daughter and we're talking about McDonald's, and I'll say, oh, McDonald's, schMcDonald's, there's a rhyming word, but then we're moving into segmentation, and I'll say McDonald's, McDonald's, and I am starting to segment the long word McDonald's into word chunks, or sound chunks, I should say. All right, so an activity that you can do with segmentation is to use PlayDoh. I actually have scented PlayDoh. And we're gonna go back to our example of pot. So let's say I'm working with a group of students and we identify that this is pot. And now we're going to listen to what kind of sounds do we hear when we say the word pot. Well, we hear p, 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 like pop, p, p, pot. So we hear p. And we also hear an aw, and then we hear a t. So I hear 3 different sounds. I'm gonna take my Play-Doh and I'm gonna break it up into 3 balls. There we go. And at my table, I'm gonna have 3 chunks of Play-Doh right ahead of me, in front of me. And every time I say a sound, I'm gonna squish it. So I'm gonna say p, ah, t, p, ah, t. I hear 3 sounds. So I'm going to squish the balls, 3 balls. Let's do a different one. I have leg, leg. I hear 3 sounds again. Leg, leg, leg. There we go. So that's a really easy activity that you can do to help segment sounds and words. Once students are able to segment sounds, then you're going to move into the next step, which is blending. Blending is hearing things coming together. You can begin with really simple blends, like 2 words. So you can say sunshine, sun, shine, sunshine. And then you get the kids to repeat after you. Sun, shine, sunshine. Butter, fly, butterfly. So that's the very beginning. You would do big words like that. You'd break them up into 2 words. Now you're going to put word parts together. So now I want to say rocket, 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 rocket. How about the word big? We have ig, big, ig, big. And then you can finish off by doing individual sounds. I have ig, big. That's the progression in blending. So the next step after you're teaching your students to blend sounds and words is you're going to go the opposite direction, and you're going to help them to isolate sounds and words. So you're going to ask your students, do you hear this sound at the beginning, at the end, or at the middle? So let's go back to our pot example. Here's my picture, pot. Do you hear the sound t, 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 t at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end? Pot. And students should be able, with practice, to identify that the word pot has the sound t at the end. And you can also combine that with your Play-Doh. So if you have 3 Play-Doh chunks, then the students have to squish the Play-Doh where they think they hear the sound t. And so they would squish the last one. And then you would roll it again. And now we're going to listen for the sound p, 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 p at the beginning. So they're going to squish the first Play-Doh. And so they are isolating the sounds. All right, now isolation and doing isolation type activities is a really crucial step. So you don't want to race through it, because that leads beautifully into the next step, which is step number 6 in the progression. And that is being able to delete and substitute sounds in words. So taking my lovely pot again, my pot example, an activity that I would do with my students is, let's say the word pot, pot. Can you say the word pot without the p sound? So they have to isolate where is the p sound, and then they have to delete it. So then they would say ought. Perfect, ought. Now let's go back to pot. Can you say pot without the t sound? So they would say paw, Great. And so that is an activity that you can do that helps delete the sound. Now we're moving into substituting the sound. So instead of p, pot, can you take the p out and put a h at the beginning? So they would remove the sound p and they'd have to slide in the sound h and say hot. Awesome, hot. Now we have the word hot. Can we take the t, t, t sound out? And can we put a p sound in its place? And so it's very hard to do this without manipulatives, but then you can use PlayDoh, like I said, or you can use like little blocks or things. You can take the block out and then you can put a block in and say, now let's do a p sound. But again, we're not talking about letters at all. This is just about sounds. All right, there you have it. That is the phonemic awareness progression from start to finish. So students are beginning with sound discrimination. Then they're introduced to rhyming, segmentation, blending, isolation, deletion and substitution, and phoneme identification. Remember, the key for all of these activities is to keep it fun and interactive, using manipulatives like picture cards or Play-Doh or blocks. Students are gradually building upon each skill. This is a progression. It's a journey where students are going to be developing a really rich and deep understanding of sounds that make up words that will eventually prepare them and have them ready for reading and writing. All of these activities are meant to focus on sounds, not letters. That's phonics, and I'm going to talk about that in the next episode. So if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so that you do not miss any episodes in the future where I talk about assessments. How do you assess students on the phonemic awareness progression? Where can you figure out where they need the most help? And how can you bring them together in a group and pinpoint those activities? If you have any comments or questions about anything that you've seen in today's video or anything that you've heard in today's video, you can leave me a comment down below. I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you all so much for being here. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, give it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate that so that other teachers can see this episode as well. I will see you guys in next week's episode when I talk about the phonics progression. I'm going to do the same idea where I'm going to tell you the building blocks for phonics and activities that you can do each step of the way. Thank you so much. I'll catch you guys in next week's episode. Bye-bye.